A peaceful gathering turns violent in Ferguson when shots were fired. A demonstration was taking place to mourn the second anniversary of Michael Brown's death when, according to a witness, a car struck one of the protesters. As the car drove away, gunfire was heard, causing panic. Luckily, no one was struck by the bullets. Right now, police are tight-lipped as to a motive. On August 9, 2014, Michael Brown, an 18-year-old black man, was fatally shot by Darren Wilson, a white officer, after a confrontation involving stolen cigarillos. The shooting sparked massive protests for weeks, with many chanting, "Hands up, don't shoot." Wilson was later cleared of all charges.
A terrifying and chilling new threat against Chicago police. Gangs are promising to retaliate against police. And even more terrifying, the group of 3 gangs claim to have a sniper hunting police. President of the Fraternal Order of Police, Chicago Lodge 7, Dean Angelo Sr. goes on the record. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How did you learn of the threat to the police?
Internal computer system message, officer safety alert, was shared with us a few days ago. I believe it was the 5th of August that we first became aware. One of our members sent a photo of his computer screen to us, and that's how we became aware of it.
And is there a provocation, or why are the gangs suddenly putting a target on the police when sending a sniper out?
Well, you know, prior to the release of the recent video that documented the shooting incident around the car chase with Mr. O'Neill, there was some, inaccurate rhetoric that came from attorneys representing the family. Also, the head of the IPRA, the Independent Police Review Authority, made some inflammatory remarks about how horrified and how shocking the videos were, and how the attorney was using language similar to this was an execution. Mr. O'Neill was shot in the back of the head, and all of it was inaccurate, but that was the narrative that preceded the release of the video, and we believe that was sort of fanning the flames that led to this type of a threat.
Today, WikiLeaks is adding fuel to the conspiracy that there's more to a Democratic National Committee staffer's murder in D.C. than a robbery gone wrong. 27-year-old Seth Rich was shot and killed on July 10th as he was walking home on the northwest side of D.C. around 4 in the morning. We originally investigated the murder and reported from the ground last month at the scene of the crime. Rich's family made comments to the media that it might have been an attempted robbery, according to police, but Metropolitan Police told me there were no suspects, no witnesses, and no known motives. Given the recent DNC email leaks, Rich's death and his connection to the DNC has fueled speculation online that his murder might not have been random. Now, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has made a peculiar move. He's offering a $20,000 reward for information leading to a conviction in Rich's death, leading many to wonder, what's the connection? Is the conspiracy true?
Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material, and often very significant risks. As a 27-year-old works for the DNC, who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago.
That was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No.
Seth Rich was 27 years old when he was killed. He was the DNC's voter expansion data director. He was shot twice in the back. Now, the police have said that his killing could have been a robbery, but none of his personal belongings had gone missing. There have been no witnesses, and there were no suspects either. So that's led to a flurry of theories online that people saying that he was possibly the one who leaked these documents, these emails, tens of thousands of them, and that he has somehow been killed perhaps as a result of it.
Now, Gloria Torres describes her partner Sarah Mills as a quiet, shy person, but she's speaking out about this.
I haven't been the same since I found out about this. I just feel like almost a second-class citizen because they're not acknowledging that we're good people. We care about kids, we care about others. We're in a same-sex relationship, but that shouldn't matter. I mean, we're in 2016.
According to their lawsuit, having a condition that makes it hard to get pregnant is not enough for the state of New Jersey. A woman must be having sex with a man for 1 or 2 years and not get pregnant in order to qualify for insurance that will cover fertility treatment. Obviously, that leaves out couples like Sarah and Gloria.
The doctor at the insurance company said we don't take in lifestyle choices as a consideration. We don't take that in as if we choose to be gay, which we don't.
Sarah would carry the baby, but she suffers from polycystic ovarian syndrome. PCOS throws your hormones out of whack. She says artificial insemination would likely prove impossible, but they say that's what their insurer wants them to try next, a process that could cost them over $30,000 out of pocket. So they and another couple are suing the New Jersey Department of Banking and Insurance, not for the money and not just for themselves, but to get the law changed. The couple's insurance carrier, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, says they are acting in accordance with state law.
We don't know what's going to happen, but what we're hoping is that it will be changed, that the state will look at it and say, hey, it has to be the same for every woman.
I thought in my head about how, if you punished them or if you made them more manly or if you didn't allow this, I tried them all.
For 2 years, Kimberly Shapley fought for her son to stay her son.
I did a lot of damage to this child trying to force her into this box of being less feminine, less flamboyant.
But now,
I'm a mom of a little girl that I would like to see live.
She's fighting for her now 5-year-old transgender daughter, Kai, to be treated like a girl.
I am choosing now to take this stand for my kid in elementary school so that we're not still fighting this battle in junior high and high school and college.
Shapley going before the Pearland School Board tonight. Her daughter, Kai, is set to start kindergarten in a few weeks.
We're focusing on, practicing our reading and getting more proficient.
Despite the Justice Department's directive to all school districts that they cannot treat transgender students differently, the Pearland School District says no to allowing little Kai to use the girls' restroom. Today, school leaders met with Shapley and said Kai would be able to use the nurse's bathroom. But for Mom, this is not a compromise. She feels it will do her daughter more harm than good.
41% suicide rate for transgender children who are not supported by their family, from their community, from their peers. But when you take a transgender child and you put them in a setting where they are supported, the studies show that they have no higher risk of suicide than their peers.
We sometimes think that tolerance is about one side giving up their understanding or their right or their position to agree with another.
Rick Torreson praised the school board for standing by its decision. He says it's all about safety.
It's not just about Kai, it's about Sarah, who is born a female, believes she's a female, and her safety in a situation where a man walks into that bathroom and says, I identify as a woman. What do you do with Sarah? Who looks out for Sarah?
Legally Blonde's Elle Woods is definitely fictional, as is the scene where she's sexually harassed. But many female lawyers have had similar demeaning experiences while on the job, and the American Bar Association hopes to change that with a ban put into place this week. On Monday, the ABA officially voted to amend its professional code of conduct to ban sexist language and discriminatory behavior toward women in the courtroom. The new rule reads in part, it is professional misconduct for a lawyer to engage in conduct that the lawyer knows or reasonably should know is harassment or discrimination on the basis of race, sex, religion, gender, identity, and other factors. The guidelines also state harassment includes sexual harassment and derogatory or demeaning verbal or physical conduct. And any lawyers caught engaging in such harassment will be subject to disciplinary action. Depending on the severity of the situation, that could include fines or even suspension from practicing the law. The ban comes after dozens of female attorneys publicly claimed they were consistently undermined in the courtroom and called demeaning names such as honey and darling. As one lawyer told the New York Times while she was questioning a witness, the opposing attorney told her, "Don't raise your voice at me, it's not becoming of a woman." Now some have criticized the ban, calling it anti-Christian and claiming it could impair free speech. But still, the ABA says the rule was resoundingly adopted during Monday's vote. The bar associations in 22 states and the District of Columbia already had similar rules against harassment in the courtroom, but there weren't any national guidelines until this week.
Minnesota could make history by electing the nation's first Somali-American lawmaker this fall. Reg Chapman sat down and talked with Ilhan Omar about her primary victory last night.
I think it's the diversity of the district that's exciting.
33-year-old Ilhan Omar says she is honored so many people believe in her. She says her win is the result of the unification of diverse voices in her district, long-term residents, East African immigrants, and students.
We wanted to have a campaign that uplifted all of the voices of the people of the district, and that included young people.
Omar was able to motivate younger voters, and it was a big factor in getting more people to the polls for this year's primary.
The people in the district, I think, for a long time haven't felt that all of their voices were heard, and this was their opportunity to collectively say, we are ready for change.
Omar says she is dedicated to closing the opportunity gap and focused on economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. Her win means the end of the line for one of the longest-serving legislators in state history, Phyllis Khan, who was the first female elected in the district 44 years ago. Omar says she is proud that her district continues to make history.
And today, our district is ready to elect the first Muslim woman of East African descent to our state capital, and that's a brilliant story, and sort of a repeating history for our district.
Reg Chapman, WCCO 4 News.
Omar was born in Somalia and spent time in a refugee camp in Kenya before moving to the Twin Cities nearly 20 years ago.
Dramatic decline in bee populations is threatening global food production and the balance of entire ecosystems. A third of what we eat is linked to the vital role honeybees play in pollinating 80% of the world's flowering plants, along with bumblebees and butterflies. But an unexplained drop in honeybee numbers over the past 15 years, dubbed colony collapse disorder by US researchers, puts food supplies at risk. Since 2007, honeybee winter death rates have hovered between 10 and 30% in some countries and reached 40% in Belgium and Sweden. Among the factors blamed, pesticides, spread of disease, for example by deadly parasites like the varroa mite, and decreased flowering plant varieties. Researchers say monoculture, the continuous production of one type of crop, is reducing biodiversity and in turn the nutritional sources bees need to strengthen their immune system.
The US State Department says religious freedom continues to be non-existent in North Korea. In its latest International Religious Freedom Report released Wednesday, the State Department estimates there are up to 120,000 political prisoners in North Korea, some of whom are imprisoned for religious reasons. It also says ownership of Bibles or other religious materials brought in from abroad is illegal and punishable by imprisonment and even execution. The US has designated North Korea as a country of particular concern since 2001 for its severe violations of religious freedom. On South Korea, the report said around 600 people are serving jail time for refusing to do mandatory military service, the majority of whom refused on religious grounds.
An evangelical church in Sweden is looking to convert Muslims in the Middle East to Christianity, and it's planning to use military drones to do so. The Livets Ord Church, whose name translates to Word of Life, announced this week it's going to use the drones to release thousands of small electronic Bibles into closed areas in the Middle East. The church's mission director told local news station SVT the Bibles are the size of pillboxes and don't require any electricity to work, and they'll reportedly be dropped from a high altitude by a contractor hired by the church. Since the announcement, Livets Ord's project has faced criticism from several media outlets for attempting an attack of sorts on ISIS. But the church's senior pastor said in a blog post, "This is not a political statement, nor a spiritual counterattack on terrorism. What we want is to make the message of God's love available to people who need it more than most." It's unclear if the church or its contractor would need security clearance to carry out the Bible drops. Livets Ord says it hopes to begin the mission in the next few weeks.
Security has been beefed up in Rio after reports surfaced of a second stray bullet at the equestrian venue. The Olympic Organizing Committee released a statement saying they are currently on site establishing the facts, adding that additional security has been deployed to the venue to support the investigation and to ensure the safety of everyone on site, which is our top priority. Gunshots could be heard all throughout the day. However, the facility is located on military grounds.
Now, Germany is planning to propose a ban on a full face veil in the wake of recent terrorist attacks that is, in the country. German Interior Minister Thomas de Maizière is going to propose a number of security measures, including a ban on a burqa and niqab on the full face for women in reaction to growing concerns about acts of terror in the country. Measures will also include boosting police numbers and video surveillance at railway stations and airports. Germany has seen a number of attacks in recent weeks. Daesh claimed responsibility for 2 of the incidents, banning the full face veil as well as revoking laws pertaining to dual nationality is likely to prove highly controversial in the European nation and may run into legal difficulty as well.
Danish police have arrested a man who threatened to blow himself up at an asylum centre, peacefully resolving a 3-hour-long standoff.
The standoff ended peacefully after police confirmed they'd taken into custody a man who's been identified as a 22-year-old Iranian national. Now, he'd climbed to the roof of an asylum centre on the island of Funen, which is just to the west of the Danish capital of Copenhagen. Now, he threatened to blow himself up while he was on the roof there. People were evacuated from the building and a no-fly zone was set up. That's since been cancelled. He didn't give any motive for why he wanted to climb up there, but police were able to talk him down and to take him into custody. They have confirmed his identity but have not released any name as of yet. Well, this standoff came to an end peacefully, but it comes in amongst a couple of months that have been fraught here in Europe.
Investigators are combing through the debris left by a pair of car bomb attacks that killed and wounded scores of people in southeastern Turkey. One of the bombs went off in the city of Diyarbakir. The city's chief prosecutor says the victims included children.
We will visit the wounded under treatment with policemen and judiciary officials. Unfortunately, this was an attack against civilians.
Another bomb went off in Mardin province near the Syrian border in an attack that targeted a bus carrying police officers. Turkish officials are blaming the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, for the blast. Earlier in the day, 4 soldiers were killed and 9 wounded when militants opened fire with rockets and long-range weapons from across the Iraqi border. Security forces also blamed that attack on the PKK. The violence is only the latest to hit Turkey's mainly Kurdish southeast since a ceasefire between the PKK and the government broke down last year.
NATO says that Turkey's membership of the alliance is not in question following the July 15th coup attempt, and Ankara could count on the group's solidarity and support. The U.S.-led military alliance says Turkey is a valued ally, which makes substantial contributions to NATO. Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan has sharply criticized the EU for its lukewarm response to last month's attempted overthrow of the government. He also blamed the United States for not extraditing the U.S.-based cleric Fethullah Gulen, who Ankara believes masterminded the coup.
Sooner or later, the United States will make a choice, either Turkey or Fethullah's terrorist organization. They will either choose to purchase the terrorist or Turkey, the democratic country. They need to make a choice. We sent 85 boxes of files.
Erdogan made the comments while addressing thousands of people gathered outside the presidential palace in Ankara.
The United States has approved the potential arms sales to Saudi Arabia. They include about 150 tanks, hundreds of machine guns, and other military gear. The deal would be worth an estimated $1 billion. The U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency, which manages foreign arms sales, says it would contribute to Washington's foreign policy and national security. It says the equipment will aid the efforts of Saudi Arabia to maintain political stability and economic progress in the Middle East.
Russia says there'll be a 3-hour ceasefire every day in the Syrian city of Aleppo, starting from Thursday. Its aim is to allow humanitarian convoys to enter the city safely. General Sergei Rudskoy said the pause in fighting would take place from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon local time. He said all military action, including airstrikes, would be halted for that period.
Breaking news this hour. Russia's Federal Security Service has said it's uncovered a Ukrainian intelligence service branch operating in Crimea. It's alleged the Ukrainian group has been involved in plotting terror acts on the peninsula.
Nadira, Russia's Federal Security Service, or the FSB, has successfully intercepted and prevented 2 terrorist attacks in Crimea. According to the FSB, the terrorist groups were planning to target key infrastructure in Crimea in a bid to sabotage the ongoing preparations for the elections there. During the raids, 1 FSB officer and 1 Russian serviceman was killed as the both sides exchanged gunfire. And at the site of those raids, they were able to uncover explosives and ammunition, including grenades. The FSB also added that because of these raids, they were able to uncover a network of agents reportedly working for Ukraine's chief intelligence agency. The group consists of both Russian and Ukrainian nationals, and the FSB says that they have confessed to the plans of the attacks during the ongoing investigation. Perhaps a significant note that I want to point out is that according to the FSB, one of the suspects arrested and identified is an officer working for Ukraine's defense ministry. And over the past hour, we've learned that Ukrainian authorities have dismissed the allegation, describing it as a provocation. Meanwhile, Russia has tightened security across the peninsula, particularly at its border with Ukraine.
Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has criticized Ukraine for, quote, preferring the path of terror over peace with Moscow. Now, Russian leaders said the Kremlin is to take serious measures to ensure the safety of Crimea. Vladimir Putin noted that Ukraine is playing a dangerous game and, quote, its actions are stupid and criminal.
Breaking alert now, Russia moving tanks to the Crimean border to counter a deadly Crimea attack. According to Joe Barnes of the Express UK, he reports that it has been revealed that Russian tanks have been spotted moving into the occupied territory in Crimea, which was seized following an operation carried out by Vladimir Putin's forces in 2014. They write here that witnesses have reported large amounts of Russian military hardware amassing near the towns of Zandkoy and Armansk in northern Crimea, close to the border with Ukraine.